Hi everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert 𝐾𝐒 is your usual suspect. Welcome back from that long international break. The reason as to why I say long, even though it's just 2 weeks, is because it often feels much longer than it actually is. 2 weeks tend to feel like a month without club football. Of course, the anxiety there that overweighs on football fans, hoping that their players, some of their favorite players, do not get injured while on international duty as they await to see them back in action on club football. Well, club football does return this weekend. It's going to be match day 4 of the Premier League. Elsewhere, action will be returning, of course, in the Italian Serie A, in the German Bundesliga, in the Spanish La Liga, and the French Ligue 1, and elsewhere, where you may have a team that you do support. Of course, it's going to be a busy weekend. It's going to be a busy week thereafter, because after the weekend action, the UEFA Champions League will be returning back on your screens in this new format in the 2024-2025 season. But for those with teams in the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Conference League, worry not, because you are not forgotten. We do value your presence. Anyways, but for now, our focus is going to be on the match day 4 of the Premier League. And we'll kick things off at Manchester United, because it is the Red Devils that kick off the Premier League's match day 4 with a trip to St. Mary's Stadium, where they will play Southampton in a game that I feel that they do come in under a certain level of pressure, especially for manager Erik ten Hag, who has come under scrutiny over the last 2 weeks as we were away for the international duty. One that is deserved of, although sometimes I feel he is overly misjudged. But anyways, he does say in his own words that he understands where they are in the process. He says it's going to take a little bit more time for some of his new players to gel, to sort of fit into this new Manchester United squad. Of course, we all know that some of the players that they did sign in Joshua Zirkzee, Manuel Ugarte there, Mazraoui, Matthias de Ligt. We all understand that they have to get fitted in, but he's going to have to do that much faster than he would have liked. He does say that he understands where they are in the process. He understands what they need to do to get his team firing on all cylinders, because if he doesn't get that quite on very soon, he could be destined for a premature exit from Old Trafford. Perhaps not at the liking of his bosses, but the fans will mount a bit of pressure if it does not deliver. It does come into this fixture on the back of 2 losses against Brighton and Liverpool, respectively, in the opening 3 games of this Premier League season. Just 3 points to the Red Devils' tally, following their 1-0 victory against Fulham on the opening day of the league. So clearly, he does come into this particular fixture with a bit of pressure on his shoulders. There have been questions, of course, raised, like I mentioned, and some are really valid, because for me, I still find it difficult to explain it to a Manchester United fan, the kind of football they play, the identity they under which they play, because days gone by, we've always known what the kind of team Manchester United are, what to expect of them. When they were under Jose Mourinho, yeah, we all know what Jose Mourinho was about. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in charge, he was trying to replicate that sort of bygone Ferguson era of counter-attacking football and all that. When Louis van Gaal was there, we all know he was trying to build something. He wanted possession-based football. That's why I think it went on record that there were so many back passes between Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, and David De Gea, more than there was between his attacking midfielders and the strikers at the time. Nonetheless, even in that turbulence, he was able to win them the 2016 FA Cup before he was shown the exit. So, of course, they did have David Moyes, who was trying to step into the big shoes following the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson. And then we had an interim Giggs in there and an interim Mike Carrick. Not to mention Rafa Ragnick, who said they needed open heart surgery. So, 2 years down the road after Rafa Ragnick said that, Cristiano Ronaldo does seem to point to the same, thing, that a lot needs to be done. Well, it's new management under Erik ten Hag. He has a new deputy in Ruud van Nistelrooy, a former Manchester United player, a legend of the club. So we are waiting to see what they can unleash this weekend and for the rest of the season going forward. They do face a Southampton side who are desperate for a point, who are desperate to earn their first point of this new Premier League campaign because they have lost their opening three fixtures, 1-0 against Nottingham Forest and 1-0 against Newcastle on the opening day or on the opening weekend of the Premier League, and then that 3-1 beating against Brentford in their very last fixture. So they are equally desperate for results for this particular fixture. And yet when you look back at the last 5 meetings between the two sides, Manchester United have only won 2 of those 5 fixtures, with the other 3 ending in draws. Of course, the beauty of it is that one of those 2 victories for Manchester United was away at St. Mary's Stadium. I think that was by 1-0. But also, when we rewind things back, I think around May 2021, they did beat Southampton by 9-0 at Old Trafford. So clearly, this is a team they know how to beat. Whether they can beat them this time round is a question that we are waiting to be answered tomorrow in the early kickoff in the afternoon. So that's the kind of picture that you do expect. Of course, United have their injuries to contend with, sort of the usual suspects. Some are a bit of doubts because for Manuel Ugarte prior, he was signed late on in the transfer window, so it was a question of fitness. He could be ready to, to get going. Of course, Luke Shaw is just returning from that calf injury. Rasmus Højlund with his hamstring. You believe that the fortune of the international break has helped him to sort of recover and return to training, whether it's full training that helps him gain full fitness to be available for this particular fixture is one we wait to see when the matchday squad is laid out tomorrow. But Tyler Malacia, this could be a game that comes a little too early for him. Of course, as well as the summer signing in Lenny Yoro, the fixture does come a little too early for him. So those are injuries, concerns they do have to contend with, as well as Mason Mount. Now, Mason Mount, of course, his injury was precautionary, and then you do think that this fortunate international break could have helped him, heal a little bit much faster. So, like I keep saying, a lot of pressure. We've looked at the next 7 fixtures that Erik ten Hag does have ahead prior to the next international break. So, what he does in those 7 fixtures could be key, could be critical, could be crucial in determining whether he will remain in the reins at Old Trafford or whether he will be shown the exit. It could not be to the preference of his bosses, but the pressure from the fans in his 3rd season will be really mounting on, because they do believe he has been given the tools that he wants or that he desires, the kinds of players that he himself wants. Now, while they struggle for identity, of course, sometimes when he chooses his lineup, you do wonder whether he's still playing the English media politics that most foreign managers do have to play to stay on the good side of the media in terms of massaging their egos and all that. And that's why, maybe I get the feeling that that's why he has retained Marcus Rashford in the starting lineup in spite of his under-delivery in recent times. That dates as far back as the whole of last season. So I do feel that he doesn't deserve to be starting games, because in recent times he's been just off form. Historically, he's good enough to be in this Manchester United team, but last season, this season so far, he has not yet shown us any signs that he has the quality to start in a Manchester United starting 11. So maybe he should be relegated to the bench. But like I said, you do wonder whether Erik ten Hag is trying to play politics with the English media to try and soothe them that as they look on the poor form of the team, they also look at the players they are in, and Marcus Rashford being on that list perhaps wins him, a slap on the wrist as opposed to a thorough thrashing in terms of media coverage. So that question does linger in there, but very soon or later, big questions are going to be asked of him if he does not deliver on some of these key games. So historically, the two sides have met about 49 times in the Premier League. Manchester United having the lion's share of those victories, winning 29 of them, while Southampton, I think, have only managed 7, with the other 12 ending in draws. So it's a game that Manchester United have subsequently dominated over the years. But like I did mention, that in the last 5 fixtures, United have only won twice, while the other were draws, including a 1-1 draw, a 0-0 draw. So when it's a draw, usually the score line tends to be minimal. And not to mention, it's the early kickoff at 2:30 p.m. That's East African time. These are games that tend to be troublesome, that tend to be a bit hard for big teams, because these small teams tend to give them a bit of hard time. We did witness that in the last match day, Premier League kickoff of match day 3, when Arsenal first off with Brighton, ending that game in a 1-1 draw. Of course, it was another early kickoff. These teams tend to be stubborn. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because the temperature works for them, or whether they really do gear themselves up for these kinds of games to try and deny all points, or even, try and take a point from these gigantic teams. So, as far as Southampton are concerned, they do not have so many injuries to contend with, except for Gavin Bazunu and Kamaldeen Sulemana. So those last I checked, those were the injuries that they had to contend with coming into this fixture. What my prediction is, I do feel that Manchester United could fight, could struggle, and win this game by 2-1. And the reason as to why I say that is because Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff and those players are going to be under a bit of significant pressure as they are away to face off with FC 20 come the midweek in the Europa League. So that will be the early kickoff on match day 4 of the Premier League. But of course, Saturday we'll have 8 games in total, and here are the other fixtures that will be coming your way before we conclude Saturday and then into Super Sunday, that will have only 2 fixtures on its calendar. At 5 p.m. East African time, Brighton will be at home against Ipswich Town, while Crystal Palace will be at home to Leicester. West Ham United will travel to Fulham in that London derby, while Liverpool will be at home to host Nottingham Forest. Now, if you do remember, Nottingham Forest has proven to be a stubborn side for this Liverpool side. Last season, they had that dramatic victory, that 1-0 win, that late goal, that late winner by Darwin Núñez in a refereeing controversial decision on that day. So it's a fixture that has given us some beautiful moments. And of course, there was another 1-0 victory for Nottingham Forest about over a season ago. And then, of course, the first leg, I think Liverpool had beat them by either 3-1 or 3-2. So it's a very entertaining fixture one would expect on their hands with this Liverpool side. The only team that is yet to concede a goal in this new Premier League season. They've kept all 3 clean sheets. They've beaten up against Manchester United in their very last game by 3-0. So clearly, they're in good shape. They're in good shape. Nottingham Forest on the other side, they're not doing too bad themselves. You do have players that can threaten even a team as big as Liverpool. When you do have Anthony Elanga, who, by the way, was on the verge of joining Newcastle at the tail end of the transfer window, but that deal did not go through. You do have a Callum Wilson-Odoi. You do have a Morgan Gibbs-White in there. Very, very decent player. He did score, I think, in their 1-1 draw against Bournemouth. Of course, they conceded late in that goal. They do have Chris Wood in their front line there to bag in some of the goals. So it can be a very stubborn team for any team on a day. They do have Timothy Awoniyi in there. They do have a Willy Bolly in their defense there. Very good in the air. Tends to compete for those set piece play balls. So Liverpool will want to be wary of that guy. But in the manner in which they have started this season, I do believe that they would want to keep the momentum going to try and put themselves in that title contention dynamic very early on into the season, and Arne Slot will be intent on winning this particular game. And I do think, being that they will be at home at Anfield, they can edge this one by about 3-0 or even 4-0 or 4-1, around that margin of score. That's my expectation that Liverpool do win this particular fixture, still at 5 p.m. sharp. So the other game at 5 p.m. will be between Manchester City and Brentford. Like I did say, Brentford do come in this fixture on the back of a 3-1 victory against Southampton. Very good in shape. Of course, Man City are the other team that are yet to drop a point this season. They've just been flawless. They've just been exceptional, and it's expected of them. But this is a fixture that will come literally on the eve or on the pre-eve of the start of the hearing of their charges, the 115 charges that we've been saying or been mentioning for forever without them being heard. That case starts on Monday next week, and we'll keep you abreast on what the results of that particular case will be. But of course, Pep Guardiola will be intentional on trying to divert his players from that media attention and all what's going on off of the pitch in the club. Remember, when we were breaking away for the international break, he did say that pre-season was officially over. Now, he said that after, of course, winning their first 3 games of the season. He did say, in one of which they had to beat Chelsea. So he did say that pre-season is officially over and the season officially kicks for him. So having made those remarks, I'm sure he will be intent on earning all 3 points on the day at the Etihad Stadium. Brentford can be a stubborn side, and I think last season but one, they did give Man City a run for their money and I think beat them. So, but I do expect this is a fixture that Man City will go ahead to win. And at 7:30 p.m, Aston Villa will be at home against Everton, while at 10 p.m, Chelsea will be playing away to Bournemouth. Now, do remember that Bournemouth do have 𝐾𝐻 who is a Chelsea goalkeeper, unknown to that side, to Bournemouth, a team under the charges of Andoni Iraola. So do not expect to see 𝐾𝐻 in goal against his own team. That's in Chelsea, as per the Premier League rules, that a player on loan cannot face off with his own team. So that is the lineup or the run-up of fixtures that will be coming your way. Of course, Chelsea, having managed just 1 win and a draw in their opening 3 fixtures, they want to get their season going still. And you do think that this is a game for a team the size of Chelsea that you should be going ahead to win. But with Chelsea, you can never call it home, really, especially against a stubborn Bournemouth side who are capable of beating up on the big boys. So we wait to see what that fixture will also be able to deliver us on Saturday's late kickoff at 10 p.m. East African time. And then we switch our attention to Sunday, the Super Sunday of the Premier League Match Day 4. What does it have to offer on its calendar? Of course, the early kickoff for Super Sunday will be the North London Derby, one of the biggest rivalries in English football, when Tottenham Hotspur do host Arsenal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That is at 4 p.m. kickoff time, while at 6:30, Wolverhampton Wanderers will be at home at the Molineux Stadium to face off with Newcastle United. So, let's speak Arsenal against Tottenham. Now, there's plenty to say about this particular fixture. Given the time when it comes, immediately after the international break, when Arsenal do have Declan Rice on a red card, their captain is injured in Martin Ødegaard. Carafiori does struggle with his calf there, but we'll wait to see whether he will be fit enough to play in this particular fixture. Mikel Arteta, who by the way just renewed his contract with the Gunners for the next 3 years, that means he is there to stay until 2027, does say that Gabriel Jesus, he is back in full training, so he will be available in the matchday squad. Will he be given a nod to start in this particular game? I'm not so sure, but I'll wait to see how he does select his team, because it does have a midfield headache there. It does have a puzzle to solve when it comes to that midfield. On the side of Tottenham, of course, they will be without 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐿. They will be without Mickey van der Ven is a doubt for this particular one, but the rest of the other players, of course, Dominic Solanke is equally doubt for this particular one. But you'd hope that the international break did him justice in terms of giving him more quicker healing time and more resting time, maybe. But we'll wait to see or to hear from Ange Postecoglou what he has to say about his summer recruit worth about £65 million from Bournemouth. There, the England striker, the former Liverpool and Chelsea player in Dominic Solanke. So when the two sides, first off, last season, of course, they did share the Spurs in a 2-goal draw at the Emirates Stadium. Son, their captain Heung-min Son, scoring a brace against the Gunners last season, I think in the 42nd and 55th minute there, while Christian Romero scored in the back of his own net to give the Gunners the lead, while Bukayo Saka was on target for the Gunners again at the Emirates Stadium, just like he was in the reverse fixture, because he did score the Gunners' second goal as they led by 3-0 by halftime. The first goal being an own goal by, I think, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and then, of course, Kai Havertz scoring a header in that particular fixture to make it 3-0. On the other side, I think it was Christian Romero that scored to the first consolation for Tottenham Hotspurs, while captain Son Heung-min did score from the penalty spot in the 87th minute to bring hope to the Spurs there. Of course, there was a late penalty appeal that was dismissed in that particular fixture that caused a bit of media frenzy about that fixture. So Tottenham will have that in mind as they come into this fixture, that they have lost the last 2 games against their biggest rivals at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, because last season but one they did lose at the same stadium by 2-0. I think it was either Bukayo Saka and Martin Ødegaard that did score in that particular game. So Arsenal, with their midfield concerns, in the absence of Declan Rice and Martin Ødegaard, one would think that Mikel Arteta may want to be a bit conservative and play a double pivot, like we had discussed in what his alternatives are in that episode that we did. Go to our YouTube channel, check under the live broadcasts. You'll see when we're looking at Mikel Arteta's alternatives or options in the absence of Martin Ødegaard. So it could be Jorginho and Thomas Partey, and then of course you do have Kai Havertz being played in the Ødegaard role, and then you have Gabriel Jesus or Leandro Trossard lead the lines. Cesc Fabregas has come up to suggest that he would love to see Leandro Trossard play in that Martin Ødegaard role because he's capable of doing it. He's done it before, and then while we are accustomed to him coming from the left or the right flank, he says the Como manager and former Arsenal captain says he would love to see Leandro Trossard start in that position. And then there is the youngster in Ethan Nwaneri, who is also available for Mikel Arteta's choosing, should he want to play him in the Ødegaard role. Then there is Alexander Zinchenko, who by the way featured in their loss against Czech Republic. I think they lost that one by 3-2. Alexander Zinchenko starting in midfield. That left-sided midfield could be available to start alongside Thomas Partey, and then we are waiting to see what his decisions will be. And then if Ricardo Carafiori is fit enough, or Jurriën Timber, either of them could start in midfield. Again, these are options we did explore in that live broadcast. Do check it out and hear what my thoughts were on that particular one. But overall, of course, you do expect David Raya. On the Arsenal side, you do expect David Raya and goal, William Saliba alongside Gabriel Magalhaes, who came out unscathed of the international break. Benjamin White who was not someone, of course, with the English national team, so he had an ample time to rest. And then Jurriën Timber on the other side. My midfield, I think I would go with Thomas Partey. I'd go with Jorginho in that starting shape. I'd go with Leandro Trossard, and then Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, and Kai Havertz to start in the game. And then, of course, my substitutions there in could be Zinchenko to come in midfield for Jorginho, or if Thomas Partey is not having a good day in office, and then of course Gabriel Jesus to come in for Gabriel Martinelli at some point if he's not having a good day, or whichever the mixes could be in. But I would predict that will be Mikel Arteta starting 11. On the other side of Ange Postecoglou, of course, Vicario in goal. You do expect Christian Romero in that back line. You do expect Destin Udogie, Pedro Porro. Now, in the absence of Mickey van de Ven, and remember that Eric Dyer has since left and joined Bayern Munich, you do wonder who will be slotted in that centre back to play alongside Christian Romero. But in midfield, you do expect a Yves Bissouma, you do expect a Pape Matza or a Rodrigo Bentancur, and then you do expect a Brennan Johnson in there. You do expect Son Heung-min. You do expect Dejan Kulusevski as the composition that could get this Tottenham side firing against their biggest rivals in Arsenal. Now, if you are Arsenal, with the absence of those players, you may want to play a bit conservatively and look to exploit Tottenham on the counter-attack, because they are vulnerable to that. Because Mickey van de Ven, who is their fastest centre-back, is a doubt for this particular fixture. So when you have the speeds of Trossard, Gabriel Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, you could leverage on that to try and exploit Tottenham's vulnerabilities. And then they are also vulnerable in set plays. They do not defend set pieces very, very well. And last season, they did concede 2 goals out of set pieces in this particular fixture. So clearly, Nicolas Jova and Mikel Arteta will be plotting some set play executions for their Arsenal side against this Tottenham Hotspur side. But anyway, what are your predictions for this particular fixture? Do let me know what your thoughts are, because my gut feeling says it could be a draw, but Arsenal also have the potential to go and win this particular game in spite of their midfield absences. Why? Because Mikel Arteta will be under so much pressure should he drop points in this particular game. Why? He has already lost points against Brighton and Hove Albion. So losing points to Tottenham when your next opponent in the Premier League is Manchester City, in between which you have Atlanta, who you play on Thursday away in Italy, and then return to play Man City on a Sunday, meaning giving yourself just 2 days rest, could become a bit too costly early on in the season as far as this Arsenal side is a Premier League title pursuit is concerned. I do not think it will water down well with the fans should he drop points against Spurs and then against Manchester City. If he were to get at least 4 points out of these 2 particular fixtures, it would be enormous success. But of course, the ideal would be winning all 6 points. Is it possible? Yes. But let's look at the opponents once again. It's Tottenham and Man City that we are talking about, in between which you have a UEFA Champions League fixture. So, given that he's been handed a new contract, for which has been received with some mixed feelings on a certain section of the fans who think he should earn his break, that they should have looked to renew his contract at the end of the season, at the end of the current season, during which, of course, his contract would have expired. And then that would be based on if he does deliver some piece of silverware this season. And if he doesn't, some fans do think that then he does not warrant being awarded another contract. But well, so because he has already been awarded a contract, then some fans have come out to say, why are you giving him a contract so early? And yet he is yet to deliver on silverware, because the only thing he has to show is the FA Cup that he won in his first half season back in 2020, and then of course the 2 community shields. So that's it for me, your usual suspect. If you're new here, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to comment, like, and share so that we can continue to grow. Otherwise, those are my views for those 2 fixtures between Tottenham and Arsenal. Manchester United up against Southampton. Of course, we had a sneak peek into our expectations on Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest, not to mention Manchester City versus Brentford. By the way, speaking of that Manchester City fixture, former Arsenal legend in Robert Pires was comparing Jeremy Doku to Bukayo Saka, a comparison I found not just odd but unfair to Jeremy Doku because, in this case, Bukayo Saka, because I do think Bukayo Saka, by all measures, is a top player. He's better than Jeremy Doku. Now, Jeremy Doku's final decision making and goal scoring are still lacking as compared to Bukayo Saka, who promises you no less than 10 goals a season and a good number of assists. He's done that for the last 3 campaigns, or even 4. If you remember when Mikel Arteta was joining Arsenal in December 2020, I think, yes, in December 2019, sorry, when he was joining Arsenal in December 2019, Bukayo Saka was one of the boys, holding that team. He did play at left back for Arteta's first game when they were sharing the spoils, I think, in a goalless draw against Bournemouth. So, I think his first game, was it against Everton? Because the Bournemouth game, he could have been in the stands. But anyway, something of that sort of picture. So, I do not think it was just for Robert Pires to compare Jeremy Doku to Bukayo Saka. But maybe he just wants to get Bukayo Saka hyped up for this particular fixture, because the expectation is that the England international will be wearing the armband in the absence of Martin Ødegaard for this particular fixture. Imagine the boy from Hell End leading his fellow men there into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium wearing that armband. Wouldn't that be a proud moment? And then if we could guide them to a victory, then that would be quite spectacular. Anyway, those were my thoughts. Do let me know what you think, and stay blessed and have a wonderful weekend.